What if your own words are quietly pushing people away after 70? The way we speak carries even more weight. Words that once felt harmless can start to isolate us without us even noticing. In this stage of life, connection becomes more valuable than ever, but it also becomes more fragile. Many seniors speak from pain or disappointment, not realizing that certain phrases slowly build invisible walls between them and the people they love. The tragedy is they often mean well. They don't realize that their expressions, repeated over time, make others feel helpless, uncomfortable, or even rejected. If you've ever wondered why people check in less or why silence fills the room when you speak, it might not be your age, it might be your words. In this video I'll walk you through 7 things people over 70 often say that unintentionally drive others away. And no, this isn't about sugarcoating or pretending everything's fine. It's about understanding how your voice can either build bridges or burn them. The truth is, you're not alone because you're old. You're alone because you might be sending the wrong signals. But the good news, once you recognize these patterns, you can change them starting today. Stick with me until the end, because the 7th point may surprise you the most. Let's begin. Number 1, the phrase, "I'm just a burden now." Few things silence a room faster than hearing someone say, "I'm just a burden now." It's a phrase that may come from deep exhaustion or quiet despair, but to those around you it doesn't invite connection, it shuts it down. People who care about you don't see you as a burden, but when you label yourself that way, they don't know how to respond. They feel helpless, guilty, or even resentful, not because they don't love you, but because they're unsure whether to comfort, challenge, or stay silent. And slowly they stop coming around, afraid of triggering the same sad refrain again and again. When we speak this way, we unknowingly place others in a moral bind. It's a silent test. Prove you care or you're part of the problem, and that's heavy for everyone. Loneliness often begins not with absence but with emotional shutdowns, statements that block instead of build. Take Helen, 83, a retired school secretary in Pennsylvania. After her husband passed, her daughter began visiting weekly, bringing groceries and conversation. But over time, Helen started repeating the phrase, "You shouldn't waste time on an old burden like me." At first her daughter reassured her, but eventually she began shortening the visits, not out of malice but because every conversation ended in guilt. Helen didn't want to push her daughter away, but the phrase did that for her. The truth is, saying you're a burden isn't humility, it's a form of despair dressed as modesty, and despair repels the very warmth it secretly longs for. What builds connection is appreciation, not apology. Try saying, "I'm so grateful you make time for me," instead of, "You shouldn't have." Gratitude opens, self-deprecation closes. This shift in language isn't about pretending, it's about choosing words that invite love rather than deflected. People want to be there for you, don't make them feel like they're crossing a line by showing up. Number 2, the phrase, "No one understands me anymore." There's a quiet sting in the words, "No one understands me anymore." It can feel true, especially as the world rushes forward and your life starts to feel like it belongs to a different era. But this phrase doesn't build bridges, it burns them. When you say it aloud, what others hear isn't just your pain but a subtle accusation. It suggests they've failed you or that their efforts to connect aren't good enough. And when people feel they can't win, they eventually stop trying. What starts as an honest expression of loneliness can quickly turn into a wall over time. The people around you may stop sharing their thoughts or asking for yours because the message is clear. We're on different sides of a gap that can't be crossed. It's isolating, and not because you meant to push them away but because the words did that for you. Let's look at Robert, 79, a retired engineer from Ohio. His grandchildren would visit and talk about social media, video games, or music. At first Robert listened, even if he didn't always follow along. But one day, after a story about their favorite new app, he said with a tired sigh, "I don't get any of this. I guess no one really understands me anymore." It was an offhand remark, but after that they started coming around less. When they did visit, the conversations were shorter, the laughter more restrained. They didn't want to make him feel more out of place, so they stopped bringing him into their world. What Robert didn't see was that they were trying to include him, not because they expected him to understand every detail but because they wanted to feel close. They were offering a connection, and his words quietly closed the door. Here's what's more powerful: curiosity. Even if the world feels foreign, asking what do you enjoy about that, or what does that mean, keeps you inside the circle. You don't have to understand everything to stay connected, you just have to be willing to stay open. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 3, the phrase, "I've got nothing left to offer." Few statements carry as much silent resignation as the phrase, "I've got nothing left to offer." On the surface it may sound like a passing expression of fatigue or humility, but underneath it's a quiet surrender, and when you speak those words often enough you begin to believe them. More importantly, the people around you start to believe them too, and that's where the damage begins. This phrase creates a kind of emotional vacancy. It tells your children, your friends, and even your neighbors that you've checked out, that your wisdom, your humor, your presence, none of it is in play anymore, and it subtly discourages others from leaning on you, from including you, from inviting you into conversations where your experience could shine. I knew a woman named Elaine, 81, who had lived a rich life as a teacher and community volunteer, but after her husband passed she slowly stopped attending church groups or neighborhood meetings. When asked if she'd join in, she'd simply say, "Oh, I've got nothing left to offer." And eventually they stopped asking. She thought she was being modest, even sparing others the trouble, but in truth she was silencing the very voice that had once uplifted her community. The truth is, you always have something to offer: your stories, your presence, your perspective. These are not small things, in fact they're irreplaceable. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give is just to show up, to listen, to share a laugh, or remind someone that they're not alone. When you say, "I've got nothing left to offer," you rob the world of something sacred. Your continued existence is a source of meaning and connection, and even worse, you start to rob yourself of that same truth, because what we say out loud has a way of shaping what we believe. So instead, consider saying, "I may not have the energy I used to, but I'm still here." Or, "I may be older, but I still care deeply." That shift in language tells others and yourself that you still matter, because you do, and that reminder, said often enough, can open doors you didn't even know were still available. Number 4. The phrase, "I don't want to be a burden." This one sounds noble. It's laced with humility, self-restraint, and what appears to be consideration for others, but underneath that soft exterior, the phrase, "I don't want to be a burden," carries a deeply isolating weight, and for many older adults, repeating this thought becomes a form of quiet self-eraser. When you keep saying it, even in small ways, you start to shrink your presence in the lives of those who actually want to be there for you. It may start as declining a ride to the doctor, brushing off an invitation to dinner, or avoiding a conversation about how you're really doing. Each time it seems harmless, but slowly those around you begin to believe you truly don't want help, don't want company, don't want connection, and so they stop offering, not because they don't care, but because they think they're honoring your wishes. There's an older gentleman I once knew named Paul, age 84. He had 3 grown kids who lived within an hour's drive, but whenever they'd ask if he needed anything, groceries, errands, even just some company, he'd always say, No, I'm fine, I don't want to be a burden." After a while the calls came less often, not because they didn't love him, but because they didn't want to intrude. Paul was left sitting at home wondering why no one came around anymore, not realizing it was the very phrase he kept repeating that built the walls around him. The truth is, letting others help isn't being a burden, it's being human, and it's giving them the opportunity to love you through action, which is often the deepest kind of connection we can offer each other. When you say, "I don't want to be a burden," what your children or friends may hear is, "Don't get too close." Or worse, "I don't trust your love enough to lean on it." Instead, try saying, "Thank you, I'd really appreciate that." Or, "It means a lot that you asked." These responses affirm connection without guilt. They keep the bridge open between you and the people who care most. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here, and if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 5. The phrase, "It's too late for me." Few phrases shut the door on possibility faster than "it's too late for me." It sounds final, even harmless, but it plants a subtle, persistent seed of defeat. When repeated often enough, this idea doesn't just end opportunities, it erodes hope, dignity, and the chance for change. And the truth is, age doesn't disqualify you from growth, purpose, or even joy. I once met a woman named Gloria who was 79 at the time. Her husband had passed, her children lived far away, and she'd given up on most social activities. One day at a small community luncheon, someone asked if she'd ever thought about volunteering. Gloria smiled and said softly, "It's too late for me." The moment passed, but it stuck with me because I saw in her eyes that she didn't believe she had anything left to offer. That phrase, just 5 words, had become her excuse to stay hidden from life. But here's what I wish Gloria had known: that some of the most meaningful things we do in life happen in the later chapters. Think about it. Wisdom matures, compassion deepens, even simple gestures like a kind word or a story shared over coffee become powerful. And many people find that after 70 the expectations fade and freedom emerges, not the freedom to give up, but the freedom to live on your own terms. When you say, "It's too late for me," you stop your own momentum before it has the chance to begin. You take yourself out of the game before anyone else does. That's the tragedy, because most of the time the door wasn't closed, it just needed a nudge. Instead of saying, "It's too late for me," Try asking, what's still possible? That one shift in language can unlock an entirely new path, whether it's taking up watercolor painting, learning how to use video chat to connect with grandkids, or simply joining a local walking group. Each step says, I'm still here, I still matter. So if you've caught yourself using that phrase, I hope you'll pause, because it's not too late. In fact, this very moment might be the perfect time. Number 6. The phrase, no one needs me anymore. There's a quiet kind of pain that settles in when someone starts believing they're no longer needed. The phrase, no one needs me anymore, doesn't just express loneliness, it carries the weight of invisibility, of feeling left behind by a world that seems to move on without you. And for many older adults, especially those who've spent a lifetime taking care of others, this phrase can feel like the final closing chapter, but that belief is almost never true. Often it's not that you're no longer needed, it's that the ways you're needed have simply changed. In your younger years, maybe you were raising kids, managing a household, or contributing at work. That role gave you a clear sense of purpose. But now, in your 70s or 80s, purpose doesn't always come with a title. It comes in the form of wisdom passed down, presence offered freely, and kindness shared without fanfare. Take Leonard, for instance. At 83, he lived alone and mostly kept to himself. He often told his neighbor, I don't know why I'm still here, no one needs me. But one winter during a power outage, that same neighbor came by asking for help starting a generator. Leonard had spent his life working as a mechanic. In that moment, all his years of knowledge mattered deeply, and more importantly, he felt it. He didn't say, no one needs me again. Feeling needed isn't about being busy or in demand, it's about knowing you can still make a difference, even in quiet, simple ways. A phone call to a friend, a note of encouragement to a younger family member, a memory shared with a neighbor. These are not small acts, they are lifelines, and they remind others and ourselves that our presence carries weight. When you believe you're no longer needed, you stop reaching out, you pull back, and that isolation grows. But when you realize that someone out there benefits just from hearing your voice, your story, your laughter, it changes everything. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 7. The phrase, it's too late for me. Of all the things we say to ourselves, this one carries the heaviest lock on the door of possibilities. Saying it's too late for me shuts down the mind, the heart, and the future. In one sentence, it's a phrase that tells you to stop trying, to stop dreaming, to sit down quietly and let the rest of life pass you by. But here's the truth, it's almost never too late unless you believe it is. What we often forget is that aging isn't a closing act, it's just a different chapter. You may not be as fast as you once were or as physically strong, but what you've gained in life experience, emotional insight, and spiritual depth is priceless. That kind of richness doesn't come in your 30s or 40s, it's earned over decades, and it's meant to be used, shared, and lived, not hidden under the blanket of it's too late. There's a man named Clarence who didn't write his first book until he was 82. He'd always wanted to, but life kept getting in the way. After losing his wife, he sat down and started writing, not because he thought the world was waiting, but because his soul needed it. That book became a gift, not just for his grandchildren, but for strangers who found comfort in his words. None of that would have happened if Clarence had told himself it was too late. You see, it's too late is never really about time, it's about fear. It's fear that you'll fail, or that no one will care, or that you'll be embarrassed for trying. But what's worse than failing is not trying at all and carrying the quiet ache of regret for the rest of your days. At 70, 80, even 90, there's still time to write a letter you've been meaning to send, pick up a hobby you always set aside, or simply change the way you treat yourself and others. You're not too old to forgive, to heal, to laugh deeply, or to live with a sense of purpose. The only thing standing in the way is the story you keep repeating to yourself. So if you find yourself saying, it's too late for me, pause, take a breath, and ask, too late for what? You might find the answer surprises you, because as long as you're here, breathing, thinking, feeling, it's never too late to begin again. Final thoughts. As we grow older, the words we choose begin to shape the emotional landscape of our days. They can either build bridges or put up walls. The 7 phrases we've explored today may seem harmless at first, but over time they chip away at our connections, confidence, and peace of mind. And the truth is, most of us don't even realize we're saying them. They become habits tucked into the folds of everyday conversation, quietly doing their damage. But here's the good news, awareness is the first step to change. Once you recognize these patterns, you can choose differently. You can speak life into your days, you can offer yourself grace, and you can extend that grace to others. The way we talk to ourselves and the way we speak to those around us matters more than we often admit. And after 70, every word counts a little more, because the people who truly listen are fewer, and the moments that truly matter become clearer. So here's what I'd love for you to take away from this video. You are not stuck in the language of the past, you are not bound to the phrases you've always used. You have the power to rewrite your narrative, not just for yourself, yourself but for the people who love you in the community you live in. You still have time to uplift, to encourage and to show others what strength, wisdom and grace look like in their most authentic form. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.